Okay, hello and welcome to the 2025 Season 4 Week 12 Track Guide by Team Conti Sim Performance. Michael Conti here with the NASCAR NextGen car at the Auto Club Speedway. I'm going to take you for a 20-lap run around the track from within the car, then hop out of the car, go over some things externally, lane choices, and just some general tips and tricks for being successful at Auto Club in this car. And that'll wrap us up for this week, and that'll wrap up our 2025 series of track guides. So without further ado, let's get going here. So Auto Club, especially with this next gen car, very momentum based. Really important to set up your corners to where you maximize your exits. You get these long sweeping corners with big wide turn-ins, and it's really easy to get lost and kind of get offline. So for the first bit of the run here, I'm going to concentrate running in the bottom. That's really what's nicest to your tires. That's what's going to make the most outright lap time if you were on the track by yourself. And then for the second half of this run, I'm going to move up the track and show some different approaches that you can take, whether it be with older tires or in traffic to make speed. There's plenty of viable lanes at Auto Club, no shortage of options there, so make sure we go over those as well. At the beginning of this run, I'm going to keep it in 5th gear. Just a touch of brake as I encourage the car to turn off the wall into the bottom of turn 1. Takes a couple laps for the thing to get those tires up to temperature. First couple laps can be a little snug, but after that it comes in nicely. Bit of wind off of turn 4 in our baseline weather, we're fighting against that, but overall pretty neutral and a fairly decent lap to start. Main thing is to carry lots of speed on entry, but not so much to where you shove the front and limit yourself on getting back to the gas early. And then just start working that throttle. The earlier you can get on the throttle, the better. Obviously, don't want to get on it and start shoving the front or slipping the tires, the rear later in the run. But you do want to try to be aggressive at that throttle because you can make up a lot of time on corner exit and then all the way down the next straightaway if you have really good exit of the corner. Flip the tracker to last lap. We've got some decent initial fall off this week. It plateaus pretty nicely around 15. So most of your fall off is going to be like the first 10 or so, but you'll still have some after that. Got some pretty heavy tire wear this week, so I would think the back half of the fuel run is going to see some more fall off as well. A little management at the front of the run probably isn't a bad thing, as that'll ensure that you've got some tire left to race with past 20 laps. You're driving into 3, quite a bit deeper than 1 just because of how the corner's shaped. But still important to get the throttle out of it, full lift, get the front to turn in, and then start working throttle back into it. In years past, when we've had cooler tracks or different rules packages, physics, etc., we've been able to keep some throttle into it in 3, like not completely lift, and still have enough front turn to make the corner. We don't have the grip or the car to do that anymore, so you've got to come all the way out of it. Especially as you have traffic around you, going faster in the draft, plus dirty air, really going to need to lift and just be smart with how you're positioning your car. We're going to start lap 5 right here, and I'll probably start to move around a little bit earlier. I don't think anybody watching really wants to see me drive another 5 boring laps in the bottom, so we'll do one more lap in the bottom here. We'll complete 5, and then I'll start moving around. I don't expect to really find a lot of pace at this point moving around, but I think I'll be able to demonstrate the differences in where you'll start to make up time as the tires fall off later. Getting all the way down to the bottom in 3 and 4. There's a big bump right there past the center. I think some setups this week are going to take that better than others. I would like to think we'll have one of the better setups for that. But even with the best setup, you still have to be careful for that. It can slide the rear. So we'll start moving around. So option 1 is to target the first seam in 1 and 2. Just opens up your center a little bit, allows you to carry a little more momentum on corner exit. You've just got a freer, more neutral front, and you just slide the fronts less, which helps you with momentum. Still a net negative, as I would expect on fresh tires, but still felt fairly good. Really same approach to make that line work, just a little bit of a wider entry and just less wheel in general because I don't want to get to the bottom. Now we're going to go for what I would say is true middle right here. Don't particularly like this line, and I think you can see why right there. You're not to the bottom, you're not to the top, you're kind of in no man's land. It's hard to get the front to cut. Probably could have straddled the seam a little bit to get it to turn, but overall I don't spend too much time in the middle. It's either going to be bottom or top. Unlike Chicagoland, the seams here are a little bit less abrupt. There's a little bit of a less of a transition from one lane of grip to another, so you can straddle them a bit more, get the car to turn more or less depending on how you straddle. You know, right here I'll get the left sides under this seam, and that just gives me a little bit more turn and allows me to come up off the corner with some good throttle, some good rotation. It feels really nice overall. So use those seams to your advantage, use those different lanes of grip to your advantage. Now I'm going to go up top, not quite tippy top in 3 and 4, but I'm going to go to the second highest seam. I'm losing a little bit entry to center. I should have a really nice run up off, as you can see right there. And that's going to claw back all the time loss entry to center and puts me net positive by the time I start the next lap. Now we'll go same line in 1 and 2, second seam from the top. I've got some good grip up here. I'm still going to be a little front limited probably on my exit, but overall not bad. Lost a little bit on entry as expected, gaining it all back, plus a lot more down the back. To demonstrate the time loss and exit here, we'll go back to the bottom in 3 and 4. Little apron right there, didn't really want to do that, but quarter of a second up. But by the time I get to the start-finish line, I'm only just about a tenth up. And that'll continue to move in the direction of making the top more advantageous as the tires wear out. That top will just get better and better. Back to the top right there. We'll go top both ends. A lot of grip up here in 3 and 4. Just gets a little tight on exit, so just be careful for that. But some really good momentum down the back stretch. 40-20 on lap 10, not too bad. Now about 10 in, you can start to experiment with shifting. So down to 4th right there. Gives me more pull up off the corner. Also gives me a bit more rotation as well. Net positive overall. Not really shifting in 3 and 4. That might be a thing really late in the run or if you get bogged down, but overall I think you're going to keep it in 5th. 3/10 up. We'll give some of that back. Hopefully, yeah, a little more than a 1/10 and a half up overall. Good lap right there. We'll go back to the top. Now this is where straddling the seams and getting a little creative with your line can go a long way. I used a little bit more sustained brake into the center. I got the thing cut down from top to second from top, and that gave me a straighter shot on exit, which allowed me to exit with more speed, less front resistance. Versus when I ran the true top a few laps ago, I kind of ran out of turn, and then I was running out of track. You know, didn't have that problem because of the way I set up the center to angle the car back down and drive off that way. We'll go back to we'll go to the first seam right here, the downshift. Gonna get under the seam a little bit, just have to watch, especially as I'm in 4th gear. I can really light those tires up. Net negative by the time I get to the back stretch, about a 10th down overall. This first seam sometimes comes in the races and makes that bump a little more tolerable if you're having problems with that. I don't love to run down there, but really I think with with this being the first time we're going to Auto Club with this aero model, with how bad the dirty area is, I think you're going to have to just go wherever they aren't in front of you. And if that means running lines that you wouldn't typically run otherwise, I think you've got to at least keep your mind open to it. So that was top line with a shift, positive down the back versus first seam with a shift. Down into 3. It's a little loose turning to the bottom right there. I had to just check the throttle to make sure I didn't slip the rear, but overall still good. But I think, if nothing else, this is proving how many options you have. You can shift, you can not shift, you can run the top, you can rip the fence, you can run a lane off, you can try the bottom. You can do a lot. You're going to need a good car, which hopefully we have. I'm sure everybody watching hopes we have a good car as well. I think we do. But the driver can make a huge difference here in terms of lane choice, traffic management, tire management, just everything is in play this week. Big run off the top in 3 and 4. With 15 in, that top feels really good down there. I'm going to go back to the bottom here, true bottom with a shift. I'm going to gain a lot. Just don't want to get greedy with that throttle. I feel like I've got the grip. Let's see what we've got. Oh, still slower than just keeping it in 5th and running the top. And that's what makes this track so frustrating as well, is that once you get 15 in, everybody goes to the top. How do you pass? How do you pass? That's the $1 million question. You've got to hope you've got enough car to make the bottom work, or you've got to set up your passes in such a way that you kind of get even with the person right about here, and then you shortcut the corners, they're running the top, and you slide them. There'll be a lot of slide jobs. Because when this top is dominant, it is hard to get around people. For anybody who ran Chicagoland a couple weeks ago, I'm sure you saw that. There'll be a lot of the same here. The straightaways are longer, so not having momentum on corner exit is even more of a penalty. But really good grip. You know, car's fairly neutral, maybe a little snug. I think the looser setup this week could be a good option, especially in traffic. You can't be too loose or else you just go nowhere on exit. So it's a fine line, but definitely consider looser. Probably wouldn't run tighter, but we have that option as well for anybody who needs it. But I think tighter will probably be too tight in traffic. Go back to the bottom here. Nice wide entry. Start to feed throttle. Good grip on exit, but still no momentum. So I might just about break even at the start-finish line, but I'm going to be at a disadvantage as I start my lap 19 here. Go back to the bottom and show just how much slower the bottom is now. Barely ahead entry to center, and then obviously all that's going to go bye-bye on exit. 1/10, probably going to be about 2/10 into 3. But for this lap 20, I'm just going to run what I think would be the fastest line at this point, which is going to be somewhere up top at both ends. Good run to the line here. Should get us started for a good final lap of this run. Then we'll do a pit road entry. Nice bit of brake into 1. A little high. Didn't quite get the turn down that I wanted. Watch that wall right there, but still good momentum on exit. Just overdrove a little bit, back to my point of, don't overdrive. I didn't listen to my own advice right there. Into 3 and 4. Much better. That wall, and we'll complete the run at a mid-3. Not bad. Could have definitely done a better job. Just tried to get too much out of it. Alright, so now for a green flag pit road entry. Fairly straightforward entry. It's really literally straight to pit road. nice easy apron or track to apron transition. So it's all about just getting the most speed, not really giving up time versus not screwing up and speeding like you'd have at other tracks. We'll come around 3 and 4 right here. Start to track out, give myself a bit of an angle. And to the line. You've got a little bit of a buffer between the commitment line and that first timing zone. So if you're a little over 55, I think I was probably 65 right there, it's okay. Just make sure you get it slowed down. And we'll do a quick pit road exit right here. And fairly straightforward pit road exit. Just watch the wheel spin, watch the bumps right here. Not a whole lot of grip. Just be nice and easy with the throttle. Lots of partial throttle, partial. Spot your merge point and up onto the track. Okay. Alright, so let's hop out of the car here and just go over both ends of the track and the different lines and such. So looking at the hot lap right here, big wide entry. You don't want to be entering from down here and pinching the car. Big wide sweeping entry. Turning off the wall, still full throttle, eventually into a quick full lift with a little bit of brake, maybe 5-ish%. Just a quick bump of brake, not really trail too far into the corner, just enough to get the nose pointed in. You've got that long period of free roll where you just saw right there, no gas, no brake, and now I'm going to start feeding throttle into it. About 50% initially, that increases pretty quickly on fresh tires, eventually to 100% throttle. There's a lot of grip the first lap, maybe 2, and then it quickly goes away. Just be careful not to slide tires more than you have to early, as that sets the tone for the rest of the run. So big full throttle right here, and then you want to track out to the wall and exit. A lot of people, they kind of get lost, like I talked about at the front of this video. They enter way up here, they get real slow, and then they're so down on speed on exit that they never make it to the wall. If that's happening to you, look at how you're shaping that corner, look at your approach, your on throttle point, etc., and make sure that you're tracking out on exit. You've got to carry momentum on exit of the corner at this track to make lap time. If you do not, you'll be slow by yourself and even slower with cars around you. You will be defending positions constantly. You will not be able to set up passes, and it'll just be really bad. So while entry is the most important part of the corner, as it always is, because it sets up everything else, I would say, although entry contributes to the exit is arguably as important here. It's more important than really anywhere else we go, just because of how long the straightaways are and how much lap time you can gain or lose by having a good or bad exit. Hot lap is right around the bottom. Don't want to be on the first seam. Don't want to really be up the track unless you're qualifying. Qualifying is a completely different line, so check that out in our qualifying video. But in a race, on fresh tires, probably going to be on the bottom. So off of 2 here, 5th gear, no shifting at this point. Down the back, same thing as turn 1, full throttle, already turning off the wall, and I'm going to drive it fairly far into this entry here. Farther than you think you probably could, but that's just how the corner is. It's going to be a fairly quick lift. Maybe just a touch of brake, maybe not. Not necessarily need brake at this point. Just a whole lot of free roll. Get it down to the bottom, and right before I get to my lowest point, I start throttling back up. Lots of partial throttle. 60% initially, quickly grows to 70, 80. Just basically holding 90% right there. I want to clear this bump right in there, and then full throttle. So you could probably be full throttle over the big compression point, which we'll see throughout the rest of this video, especially from outside the car. You can be 100% throttle on fresh tires. You cannot be 100% throttle on old tires, because you will slip the rear and do that 1 or 2 laps, and the right rear is very angry, and then you'll be nothing but sideways off the corners. So keep a little throttle out of it, feel the compression, then go to full throttle. Same thing as 1 and 2, big track out off the corner, get to the wall, carry your momentum, and finish your lap. So that's the bottom. And then there's so many different options after that where we'll just play them probably full speed, starting at lap, we could start at lap 10. And I'll just talk you all through this as I'm changing my lineup. So lap 10 right here, we're going to run the top. Compared to my 5% initial brake pressure to run the bottom, you can see I'm driving in deeper, but I'm also using more peak brake pressure. Call that maybe 10, 12% initial. Quickly trails off to nothing, which is parallel with what I'm doing on the bottom. But you need that little extra peak pressure into one, bleed off the speed because you're carrying more entry speed since you're lifting later. But 2, also that sets the nose a little more aggressively and gives you this opportunity to then cut down on exit and not run out of space, which will happen if you try to wrap the seam. You'll get to like the 3/4 point, the front will give up, and you'll find yourself in the wall. And I'm straddling the seam, and I'm turning down all the way. I'm having to really check the throttle here because I didn't do a great job of setting the car. But still, enter pretty close to the wall and exit definitely farther off of it. And 3 and 4 right here are going to run the top. If you set your corners right, you should be able to commit to full throttle, center off, and keep it there. If you have to check that throttle and keep playing with it, you did something wrong before that. So that was top right there. Now we're going to go bottom. There's the shift. Quick, early downshift. Careful with the throttle and exit in 4th gear. Very easy to slip. Okay, 4th gear is going to go to 5th. I'll call this out too. I like to run a little off the wall down the backstretch. The bumps aren't quite as bad here, and probably doesn't make a big difference, but you're more than likely talking 100th or 2 versus running in the worst of the bumps. So just consider that as well. Really more for your qualifying lap, but even in the race too, it's good to get off this wall. Back up to the wall on entry and to the bottom. Really have to start playing with it in 3 and 4. Get slick, but still a good lap. Watch a couple more here. Into 1. Gonna run the top again, see if I do a better job and can commit better. There we go. Yep, full throttle, full commitment. And compare that to the lap before where I'm on the throttle, off the throttle, on the throttle. Really just herky-jerky, not good. Just didn't have the front cutting when I committed. That time I did a really good job of it, and I was able to keep that full throttle from the moment that I got into it to the moment I got off the corner. Down the back with some good momentum. And into 3. Back to the bottom. I think you're going to see a lot of this in the race. Top 1 and 2, bottom 3 and 4, then eventually top both ends, but it seems like it takes a little longer for the top and 3 and 4 to come in. But like I talked about, it's really going to depend on your traffic and what's in front of you and where they're running. Here's first seam with a downshift to 4th. Wind it out. Shift it like 88, 88.50 to 5th. And tried to run the first seam here, didn't love it. Had good grip, just wasn't necessarily fast. We'll watch this through 15 and then skip to the pit road segment. But I think the point's been made clear. A lot of options and just some subtle differences in how to make them work. There's top with 4th gear. A little more momentum maybe on exit. I like to keep it in 5th if I'm up top. Maybe later in the run, 25 plus in or on a slower track, I would consider shifting. But wouldn't make a habit out of it. Too much stress in the rears. You can see right there the rears were a little more stressed than they were the lap before, probably because of that shift in 1 and 2. .40.14 though, so good lap time. Keeping it in 5th. Good cut. Gonna be a good exit. And down the back. And to the top. Straddling the seam, getting a little bit more turn by keeping the left sides under the seam. Gave myself a good angle on exit and was able to complete the corner with a lot of throttle and complete the lap with good momentum and at a 40.20, which I think is going to be strong for lap 15. All right, let's go to the pit in. So pretty normal right here. Oh, yeah, very normal because that was a hot lap. Here we go. Into 3, gonna get to the bottom. And I start throttling up in the same way that I would if I was making a normal lap. Get up off the bottom a little bit to straighten out my exit from the track. So to 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and to the line. Probably a little fast. Yeah, a little fast. Pit road speed's 55. I probably wouldn't want to be any more than 65 at the line. I could have done better there. I was just trying to keep a little break out of it right here to roll in with as much speed as possible. And that's really the hardest part of this pit in is it's so inviting and there's such a long runway to that commitment cone that it's really easy to misjudge and then roll in with too much speed and then not have enough time to bleed it back off. So just be mindful of that. And down pit road. Watch the bumps in here. Lots of partial throttle to 3rd gear. And then it's just all partial all the way around the apron in 1 and 2. Will be easier on newer tires, of course. And then merge off 2. So I think that pretty much covers it strategy-wise. I believe 2 tires will be viable this week for short runs to the finish, or if you don't need a whole lot of gas and you have to do a green flag pit stop, 2 tires might be an option as well. I'm more of a 4-tire guy. I'd rather be on offense, but with the way dirty air is and how critical track position is, especially when the lane moves to the top, or if you have a lot of guys working together, it's really tough to break that barrier when you've got 4, 5, 6 guys in sync doing a good job keeping the momentum up. So with all of that being said, probably be good at some point to test out 2 tires or give it a shot in one of your races and see how it plays out. It might work for you. I think that's about it, though. Otherwise, yeah, Auto Club's a great track. It's a shame it's not around in real life anymore because it always puts on great, engaging racing. So glad that we're back here. Glad that we are out of the icebox weather and approaching 100-degree track temp. So shout out iRacing for a better forecast this week. But yeah, that's all I've got. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Really appreciate the support of TCSP and the channel. We just crossed the 2,000 subscriber mark on YouTube, which is a huge milestone for us. So we greatly appreciate that. And yeah, if you're not currently a TCSP subscriber, definitely consider it. There are a lot of great benefits outside of these videos that will probably make you a better driver or faster on track. So give us a look. That's it. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a great week 12 at Auto Club, and we'll see you next time.